What's going on, everybody? It's your man Cleveland Terry, and today we are reviewing the new entry mid-level controller from the good folks at Alpha Theta / Pioneer DJ. Now, there's no secret how I felt about the original Flex 6, the controller this is replacing. In my opinion, it didn't hit my standard for a mid-level controller at that price range. Well, I'm happy to say that all my frustrations have been corrected with this new model. So let's talk about it. All right, if you're new here, this is what we do. We review DJ gear, tips and tricks on DJing, DJ Business 101, and my weekly live talk show every single Thursday morning. If it's something you could be into, hit that subscribe button and, of course, leave a like on the video below. All right, now let's get to the GRV6. With the GRV6, Alpha Theta is continuing to give us controller names with no vowels. Don't know why, but that is just their MO. So we're going to break down the DDJ GRV6 into two sections. First, the controller as a whole. The good news is, besides one major change to the controller, both REKORDBOX and Serato offer feature parity. We'll start with Serato, and then we will move over to REKORDBOX. First, the basics. This is a single USB-C bus-powered controller, although you do have the option to plug USB power in, especially if you're using portable solutions such as the iPhone or Android and are using the REKORDBOX app. It is USB-C throughout, and I'm glad Alpha Theta continues to push USB-C. As far as outputs, we have an upgraded TRS output and RCAs on the mains, also RCAs for the booth out. I do wish they made the outs XLR, but we can't have everything. I'm much happier with 1/4 inch and RCAs found on the original Flex 6. Speaking of 1/4 inch, the microphone is also with our favorite attenuator for gain control. On the front, we have our Q systems with headphone jacks, big and small, and a mic volume. There is no tone knob or EQ on the mic whatsoever. Split Q is activated using a series of Indiana Jones style actions done with starting with the controller. It's basically the same thing found on the S5, and I didn't like it then, I don't like it now. For me, using split Q is not always on every song. Sometimes I like it on, sometimes I don't. But this way, I have to choose before I start DJing, which is not ideal. This applies to many functions, like mic output to the booth, recording the mic, etc. If it's software, okay, but this is not the way. Obviously, the one thing I did not mention was any audio outputs. There are none. And for whatever reason, on a 4-channel controller, it would have been nice to see at least an auxiliary input. Sadly, no such luck. On the top is where everything changes. Everything has been upgraded and improved upon. This is definitely a hybrid of several of Alpha Theta's DJ controllers. The Flex 6, the Opus Quad, the CDJ 3000s, the Flex 10, and a little bit of Rev 7. The up faders are very smooth, and the crossfader, not Magville, but continues to perform better than any other basic fader on any device in this price range. The pitch faders are what you'd expect from a mid-level controller, a little more resistance than I'd like to, but they do the job. The effects strip, even though it looks the same, sports a more higher setup, ditching the 8-track style layout for a more traditional CDJ style. It is a welcome addition. Continuing in the middle, we have the layout we've come to love. Sound color effects on all 4, and you can change them to filter, dub echo, reverb, and noise. Now, obviously you can't see them on here, but if you're looking in it through Serato, you can see that by holding Shift and the effects button, you can switch through your effects. We're going to keep it on filter. Moving up to the top, we have navigation and easy load buttons, followed by action buttons that operate slightly different if you are using Serato or REKORDBOX. We also have a 4-way knob here, left, right, up, and down, so you have more options when scrolling through your crates. Moving over to the jogs, we have the familiar CDJ layout, 8 Q buttons, which are the clicky kind. But unlike the CDJ or the Opus Quad, this offers something I asked for on the original, and that is pad modes. Here we have the option found on every other controller. This is a 4-deck controller, so we have also switchable buttons right here. We have our standard echo, ins and outs, memory buttons, slip and quantize, everything we've known to love. Moving up to the very top, we have stem effects. Now, notice on one side, you have stem effects, and on the other side, you have groove circuit. Now, both of these apply differently to different software. Stem effects for Serato, and then Groove Circuit for REKORDBOX. Now, I know what you're thinking, and so did Alpha Theta, which is why found in the box are decals for both, so you won't get confused if you're using primarily Serato or REKORDBOX. But first, let's talk about stems. Like on the Flex 10, we have the ability to apply effects just on the selected stem. For instance, if we want to echo out the vocals or apply a break, you can do that from here. Now, you still have access to all the Serato stem effects, but I do love the way they are implemented here. We have 4 selectable effects right here. We can apply to any of the stems, and we have a quick half beat option for certain effects, and of course, your depth knob, and my favorite, the stems roll. Now, the stutter can be affected just by hitting the buttons. But the stem effects require the paddles. You can also use a stem roll. I love the paddles, and I've found that you can use the stems effects for pretty much everything if you are so inclined. The most popular effects are found in here, and we have echo out, roll out, breaker, and delay. So choosing these is as easy as just pressing the shift and then the button here. So right now it's defaulting to echo out. That's why it's blinking. But if we move over to roll out, now that one's blinking. So we can apply the same thing. That's your rollout, breaker. And then your delay. Also, along with the standard stem effects, you do have your standard stems found right here. And then you can affect both the Serato stems and then the Serato stem effects right here. And then in the middle, coming to most of all the new controllers, we have stem ISO, which can be done by holding down shift and then applying the button here. Now, this is a Serato internal effects board. There are no external effects, but the way they are implemented, you really can't tell. Firstly, at the present time, there's no way to change out the customized effects. So all of these effects in this board here, they're kind of hidden behind a secret panel here. What you hear is what you get, but new Serato effects are good, so no issues. Also, with the effects, they have once again borrowed the pad effects options found on the Flex 6 and the Flex 10, basically all the REKORDBOX things. So if we were to go back into the song, we go over here to pad effects, holding shift and pad. Now, if you haven't noticed, you have 8 pads, but you have different effects. Some are latch and some are hold. The ones to the left here are all holds, and so they just, and then release. But if you press these are going to latch and they're going to echo out, and then you have no more control until you release the effect. Basically, what I'm saying is you have so many ways to affect your sound everywhere, and it's really up to you to decide how you want to do your DJ routines. I like the fact that I have the paddles because then it reminds me more of like my Rev 7 or an S9 or an S11, and I don't even have to touch these. I can operate right up here and be just very, very happy. I love that there's the dedicated loop roll. I'm a big fan of the loop roll. I know a lot of people don't like it. I love it. So I love having that option right here. And then of course, you know, your stem effects right there. So it gives me the best of both worlds. And if you are, I don't know, effects heavy guy or girl, you can literally have your way with this whole thing. The controller sound is good. No complaints whatsoever. It sounds better than the Flex 6. And for an entry mid-level device, it's a good sounding board. Okay, last thing on the board before we move over to REKORDBOX is the jogs. Now, the jogs, they are capacitive, but they feel like the Opus Quad and the CDJ 3000s. They're just a good feeling jog. Now, I don't know how they do it, but the jogs, just like the Crossfader, the way Alpha Theta makes their equipment, they're just really good feeling jogs. They're surprisingly smooth for a controller in this price range, followed by the very basic. But for whatever reason, excellent use, which is the Rev 5 style indicators here, right here. I know it seems dumb, but they work. They work really, really well. In fact, I found that I have had better luck with the way this is implemented, this Q display, than a lot of other ones. I don't know what it is, but they just work. All right, now we need to move over to REKORDBOX. Now, while we're waiting for this to load, as I stated earlier, everything is virtually the same except for the groove circuit. Oh, wait. There is one thing. This new controller sports the new REKORDBOX stems 2.0. Now, you won't see them at first because the system defaults to 1.0. So if we go into the settings, now if we head over here to our extensions and we have the stems tab right here, this is the default, this prioritized speeds. This basically means 1.0. So if we were to leave that one on here, and let me go back to my vlog playthrough, let's move forward again. Okay. Now, this is stems 1.0. All right, so let's go back into preferences here, and we will go to extensions, stems, and we're going to change this to prioritize sound quality. It's going to ask you, you're going to say yes. And then we're going to try the same thing over after it reanalyzes the song, because effectively it has removed it. So we're going to drag it back in. And you can see the little blue line here. This is it analyzing the file. Now, as it's analyzing, if there was one weak thing about REKORDBOX Stems 2.0, it would be analyzing takes a lot longer than I would like. And it does affect the way the stems and the groove circuit and all that stuff work if you are too quick with everything. But we're going to show you how it is right now. So here we go again. At first I said that I love you when you ain't say that shit back. It's kind of hard to just trust you when both your feelings don't match. Got me showing less emotions, I don't want to get much better. Once I give you my word, I swear it ain't no going back. Once I give you my much better. Now, again, the only issue is it's a little bit slow on the processing. It is what it is. Now, of course, you can pre-scan these things like the same thing with Serato, but you know, if you're rocking an M1, M2, M3, M4 coming out soon, well, then you're going to want that real-time action, and it's a little slow. Now, having said that, they are night and day different, and they are so much better. Now, I wouldn't say they are Serato or virtual DJ good, but they are still very, very good. I'd put them closer to algorithm DJ stems, which is still a good thing. Let's move up to groove circuits, because this is obviously the big thing that's coming to this board versus the stems. Now, I do want to point out that it's one or the other. So with Serato, you have stem effects found on both sides. Okay, obviously. With REKORDBOX, you have Groovebox on both sides. So you don't have the stem effects that you have. Now, of course, you know, there's so many ways to implement the effects on this board. You're probably not going to have an issue, but that is a thing. All right, the way the groove circuit works is you can replace the drum stems for the default stems that are in the system, or by sampling a song you already have in your crate. So say you want to change a beat to a reggaeton style. You can sample it and it will stay in REKORDBOX as an option until you remove it. It has sync built in, so no matter what tempo your beat is, it should match. Now, I say should because it's not as effortless as I'd like it to be, especially using Stems 2.0. Now, the stems analysis is slow, so once you've, created it, you have to wait for the stems to be ready. And also when you capture a beat, you have to wait for REKORDBOX to analyze it. So this adds some time, but once done, you can activate on the fly anytime you want, just not at first. It gives you some great options for DJing as long as you have it plugged in. If you have a song loaded or not, you can hit that and have audio coming out. So if you're just kind of setting up and you need to get a quick sound check out, you can just hit that button and go. Let's show you some examples now. As this works, I'm playing a song in here. There are pre-programmed beats in the drum swap. So here's one. Here's another one. Another one. And your last one. So all these beats are in there by default. Now, when I bring a beat in, and I can literally hit play and it's going to start from the beginning of the loop. Now that's not the beat. That's the beat. You have your gain. Now you have your drum roll here. All right, now I'm sure all of you are thinking the same thing I'm thinking. The beats are okay. I would still love to have my own. And I think a lot of us were feeling that way about the Rev 7. When those beats were there, we were like, God, this is cool. But it would be cooler if I could put my own beats in and then I could really scratch. Well, obviously, like I say, there's always an evolution and they've thought about that. So you do have the option to capture a beat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a different beat, and I'm not going to obviously play it on the video because it'll be demonetized, but I'm going to take the beat and then apply it on here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to record this, and I'm going to take Danza Kuduro as my track. All right, here we go. Capture. It's capturing. Assign it to 2. Now, when I bring this back in, 2. Perfect loop. It's on tempo. I can slow it down. I can speed it up. Now, when I bring my beat back into vlog music. Now, again, because it has to scan through to make sure the song, which also finds the stems, but it also defines your beat grids. So we're going to let it run through, because if not, if you do it too early, it doesn't lock in like you expect it to. So we're going to wait for the whole thing to be finished. And there we go. And here we try. Now, this is the default beat. Reggaeton. Now, here's the thing. The one thing I'm going to show you, we have here single and multi. Now, it's set to single right now, but if I hold down shift, I can switch this to multi, which means that I can play more than one sample. my Danza Kazuro is trash. So let's try to do that one again. Here we go. That's better. Add another beat. If it's not loud enough, you can affect it. I do love how it automatically just unmutes when it's on. I hit the beat. It mutes the original beat when it's on single. Brings it back. What I was saying before, that if you've put this in, it's basically created another sample window right here. So once it's created, it saves that sample into your record box, so it's always there. Now, I do want to point out that on both sides, you do have different sounds or different possibilities of sound on each side. So in effect, you do have 8 possible sounds that are available to you. Now, I do want to point out though, that in order for this to work, it's got to grab hold of your BPMs. So you're not going to be able to play things on this side necessarily and have them line up completely as it is on this side, because right now it's taking the beat grid. So if I go somewhere slower, this beat, bring the beat in after it scans it. You always have to wait for it to scan just to be on the safe side. Meanwhile, enjoy the beat. All right, here we go. And we'll bring the beat in. Now, of course, this is an extreme situation. I would never go so dramatically, but you see how I slowed down? What you could do, now they're both in Q, and you can change the beat sync. And if you speed it up, you can just have the beat speeding up on here. You can come here when it analyzes. I can still bring this beat in. And I still have these beats on, so right now they should work. Now, you see that little delay right there? Not quite sure what the delay is. What I'm saying here, that is in perfect conditions, and it doesn't have to be super perfect, but close enough. Sometimes it can really sound good. Other times, you might run into some issues. You still have your effects. And in order to change these effects, Again, holding down shift and then clicking the down on the FX select. And you can change to the effects they have here. And what do they have? Vinyl break, echo, backspin, and those three. So echo. So, I guess what I'm saying here is that there are some very, very cool features on here. And for me, this is the board that the Flex 6 should have been. And I'm glad that instead of just kind of giving up on the Flex 6, they were like, well, let's improve it. And that's not only let's improve it, but let's make it a better controller. And all of the little things that I complained about are gone. You know, the effects strip right here. Now you have dedicated switchable knobs here, not the 8-track style, which basically was this thing, but it was 8-track. You would just keep hitting the arrow until you got to the beginning again. And of course, you have your dedicated effects right here, and then your dedicated effects output. But along those lines, you still have so many effects options, and the board is just a really, really good board. It is bus powered, so you don't have to worry about having to bring another plug with you or not. If you're using a computer, if you're using portable, obviously you're going to need that, but it's very, very light. It does the job. It does a really good job. It takes the best parts of a lot of other controllers and then implements them into here to make this just a very good controller. Now, price wise, I believe this one is coming in, and if I'm wrong, I'll put the right thing up top, but I believe it's coming in at $829. I think that as far as price range is concerned, especially nowadays when all the prices have just skyrocketed, this is still a really good controller for that price point. Would it have been better if it was under 800, you know, maybe around 749? Absolutely. I was in Guitar Center a couple of weeks ago. Don't ask me why, but I was in Guitar Center and there was a guy in there and he was buying a controller, and he was buying the Flex 6 because he's like, it's a good entry level controller. I can do what I want. I can get my practice on. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, you should probably wait. You should just wait, because this one is so much better than the Flex 6 that this is the one I would recommend. Bottom line here. All right, guys, if you found what I said are useful, hit that like button. If you found what I said are really useful, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on the Instagrams and the Twitters. Get on my Discord, because that's where we're talking about all things Cleveland Terry. Guys, girls, always a pleasure. If I don't talk to you later, we'll talk soon. Peace.